James Tennery.
That's me.
It's good to see you, man. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, for sure.
Busy dude. Glad you could take the time.
Yeah, kind of a cool thing. Never done it before. I always like new shit, so.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. You don't realize like how fast 3 hours can go by.
Yeah.
And I tell everybody, oh, it doesn't have to be 3 hours. It can be however long you want. And I've had people before that come in and they're like, well, I only have about an hour because I got to do this thing. And then next thing you know, 3 hours are going by and they're like, oh shit.
Right.
Well, I guess I'm going to be late. Let's keep talking.
Yeah, right. Well, it's kind of a good excuse to sit and bullshit, right?
It is. Well, and I was just telling Chad too, it's nice because so off mic, we were talking about just kind of, why I do this and stuff. And he brought up, well, when you go to a party and you're hanging out with all your friends and stuff like that, there's so many people and you end up in this kind of like social, not really a bubble, but just like this, you feel like you need to go around and talk to everybody and make sure that you get everybody's attention or give them attention. And so it's hard to just sit and talk to somebody and bullshit. And so this is really good for that because it gives me the opportunity to sit and get to know my friends a lot better.
Yeah, that's a cool thing.
And vice versa.
Yep.
Like, I'm not a huge people person, so like the one-on-one thing is usually better for me.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah. So
I'm kind of the opposite. I'm usually good in a crowd.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're a people.
I'm definitely people. I like the crowds. And then I've been a public speaker my whole life, doing different kind of public speaking things.
Oh, really?
From just being a loudmouth. So
like public speaking for work? Or?
Yeah, for work. And I've always they were like, oh, somebody's got to be the representative that's going to speak to everybody. Oh, let's throw James up there, So it's kind of always been the way it is, just because, I don't know, it's just something that's in me.
Like board meetings, press releases, all that stuff.
You got it, yep.
Jeez.
And then like I used to work for a company, a resort company, and they basically, I think that's part of the reason I got promoted to I was a regional director of operations. But pretty much my main, they just sent me to go talk to everybody. Yeah. So, and they had me, and then I'd go to talk, and it was not sales-y, but not salesy. I was a guy that would talk to everybody, but it was about, it was more about, what we could do. And then they'd have somebody else that was salesy would come in and give them the sales spiel. But I was the one that would just kind of come in and just kind of bullshit everybody, and not in a bad way, but just bullshit with everybody and tell them what we're about and make friends with them and blah blah blah, and then
so you're the guy that butters everybody up, and then you got the closer that comes in.
Exactly. So that I was they'd send me to conferences, and I literally would speak on HOA collections and customer service and that kind of stuff, which is mostly customer service is what my life has been about. Yeah. A little stint in the Marine Corps, but other than that, it's been customer service since I was a kid. I started out in restaurants and catering and that kind of stuff. I tried a summer in the trades. I was like, nope, I'm better in the kitchen or in a dining room or.
What kind of trades?
I was a tile setter.
Oh, really?
Or an apprentice tile setter. So I dated a girl for a couple years while I was in high school, and her dad was kind of they were one of the big tile contractors in the Sacramento area. And so I got as a junior in high school, I spent the summer as an apprentice tile setter. And then I went back kind of after my end of my senior year and was just grouting bathtubs in 120 degree heat in Sacramento is not what I want to do for the rest of my life. So
yeah, you're on your hands and knees, just pushing grout everywhere and then sweating your balls off and it falls in your grout.
Yep. And especially when you're, that age and, a big kid, guess who's carrying all the buckets of mud?
Yeah.
So I was hauling mud more than I was doing anything.
Yeah, that does not sound fun whatsoever.
Nope.
So are you from Sacramento area then?
Yeah, so I born in Ogden, Utah, and then moved to, but I literally lived there for a minute as a baby. And then we pretty much immediately transferred to Hawaii. And was there for a little over a year or so, and then by the time kindergarten hit, we'd hit Sacramento. So started schooling in Sacramento and went all the way through high school in the Sacramento area. So,
and are you a military brat?
Mm-hmm. Dad was Air Force.
That's right.
Literally, my dad's war hero status. He's Distinguished Flying Cross, which is one medal underneath the Congressional Medal of Honor, and served multiple tours in Vietnam. 26 years in the Air Force. He's as a rescue pilot, so he's he's pretty proud of the fact that he was saving lives and,
Yeah.
you know, that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah, I like talking to your dad. He's an interesting guy too.
yeah, he's chatty too.
Yeah.
And I think it's funny because, you know, before I
Couldn't be where you get it from.
Yeah, no, actually, my mom was worse.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry, my phone is dinging, so I'm going to silence it and double check that I don't have some emergency going on.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I don't. All right, cool. I know that ding is going to drive me crazy. Silent mode on. Okay. So, yeah, no, my mom was even chattier. So I'm kind of a good mix of both of them.
Mom had a lot of words.
Yeah, mom was kind of crazy. She was cool though.
I can't remember which comedian it is. He has this great bit about how he loves his dad is a talker, and he just talks all day long. And his favorite thing to do is to go over to his parents' house, because his mom and his dad have an agreement now that after 9 p.m. his dad's not allowed to talk anymore. So he loves going over there and getting into conversations with him, like about deep shit, like right at 8:30. Yeah, because then you can hear mom upstairs at like, you know, right 8:59, and she's like,
That's so funny. So actually, it's funny. I think one of the reasons my dad is so chatty now is like when my mom was alive, dad didn't get a freaking word in edgewise.
oh, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, so if they were out, mom was, you know, and mom always was pretty much like center of attention.
Yeah.
Everywhere she went, it's just how she was.
Yeah, the spotlight hogger.
Yeah, yeah. And so dad spent the last. That's one of the reasons I think he's extra chatty now is, you know, my dad spent the last 5 years in particular really just doing nothing but taking care of my mom. And didn't really have a big social circle. And then when mom passed and I moved up here, now I'm bringing him out and he's got like a social circle. And he's just like,
Yeah.
I have people to talk to, you know?
Yeah, right.
And I think he's been sick for a couple weeks. And I think part of like just it's the winter funk, and he just had a really flu, and he's 87 years old. So I'm like really trying to get him to where he wants to get back out, because I think he just lights up when he gets around everybody. So
Yeah. Yeah, he always has a smile on.
Yeah.
Like when we're out at the bar and stuff.
Yep.
And running around, hitting up all them old gals.
They're all over him. He's a freaking pimp. I'm telling you.
I know, right?
My dad they're like, and it's the young ones too.
I know. He doesn't even really do anything. He just sits and hangs out with us. And
Yeah.
somehow they flock to him.
I know.
Like the salmon at Capistrano.
Right? The salmon. I'm all salmon. What? It's Pacific Northwest thing. So, yeah, I know.
I was thinking of Dumb and Dumber.
No, I know. So yeah. Then where did I go from there? So yeah, grew up in the Sacramento area, pretty standard stuff. You know, I was a jock, but I was also kind of the party kid. So I used to throw big parties and pull them off without a hitch. It's funny. It's one of, like I said, I used to speak to, and I still do. I have a couple different stories that I use to kind of explain why I do what I do in the hospitality business and why I'm drawn to it. But I always love, it's kind of a story I talk about when I was getting out of the Marine Corps. You know, I'd been doing, you know, grunt stuff. And all of a sudden when I was getting out, I was like, okay, I can go be a cop. I can go be, you know, this kind of stuff. But I was like, that's kind of the reason I got out of the Marine Corps is I want to be there for my family, you know?
Yeah.
And so I'm like, that's not really going to work. So I'm like, what am I going to do? So I started looking around the stuff I'd done. I didn't want to go back and be a tile setter. I didn't want to go back and be, you know, I was like, do I want to go back into bars? You know, I got a kid now, you know, and so I was like, well, what about resorts? You know, what did I like doing when I was young? I was like, well, wait a second. I was the guy that always threw the parties. I was the guy that made sure we got the keg. I was made sure that, you know, my dorky friends talked to girls, and, you know, and then at the end of the night, I got everything cleaned up and got everybody home safely. And I was like, I think hospitality is like my calling.
Nice.
So I went back to school for hospitality management and then got into the resort business, but really just went back to it. And, you know, if we've ever hung out, I'm not at a party, especially and not necessarily at Razzles, but like if we're at a party, I can't sit still. I'm not the person that can sit.
Yeah, you're usually all over the place.
Yeah, exactly. I got to be involved in some way.
Yeah.
You know, so just feels more natural that way.
Yeah, that's awesome, though, that you kind of just took what you knew you were good at and rolled with it.
Yep.
Because, I mean, not a lot of people can do that.
Yeah.
It's hard for a lot of people, especially when they're younger, to think of something like that.
You just got to, I don't know, you got to find it. And it's funny now because, like, That's one the company I work for now is really focused on. It's strength management. So instead of, finding some housekeeper and try and make them a front desk agent, they're just not cut out, or vice versa.
Right.
That person that is really good at the front desk isn't necessarily going to make a great housekeeper. It's like people have different skill sets, so don't try and, focus on what they're good at. If you got somebody that's a people person, keep them at the front desk. Or if you all of a sudden see a housekeeper that's necessarily the best housekeeper, but they're always chatting everybody up, get them at the front desk.
Yeah.
So it's like, don't necessarily just beat people up because they can't, fit into whatever mold they're necessarily at. Like, talk to them, see if we can figure out what they're good at and find a position for them.
Yeah, that's that's pretty important for any team, is to find out what every member is good at and what they can do and what they have a natural talent for. Just because your tight end is really good doesn't mean they're going to make a great quarterback.
Exactly. So it's interesting. It's really cool that our company is focusing on that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
They have us take this, what's the old one called? What's one that we all took back in the day that was, you're a type A, you're a type B. Forgetting the name of that.
Yeah. So I can't remember either. We actually just took that recently in the last couple of years. Like, for some reason my work sent us to do it. But so you have directives. Yeah. People that are really good at just like giving orders and telling people what to do and organizing things. And then you have analyticals, which are good at figuring out how to do all that stuff. And then you have the people who are, I think they're the B type, and they're really good at they care about people, and they're really good
relationships.
They're really good at relationships and like speaking to people and stuff like that. And then you have the creatives who are they build everything and figure out how to make stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting how all these different studies figure out how to categorize us,
Yeah.
I was a facilitator for a thing called the color code.
The color code.
Yeah, which was really interesting. It was funny. They tried to switch the name because they felt it might, all of a sudden you're putting, but
I can see how that might be bad.
They moved it back to the color code because it just wasn't marketing after they tried to switch the name. But it's really a great test. But it's one of those personality tests, and it groups you by your core motivations. So it's like, is it power? Is it relationships? Is it analytics? Is it fun?
The things that like drive you to do what you want to do?
Yeah. So it like asks you questions like, how did you act when you did this as a child? And if I remember right, it's like 100 questions. And but I was a facilitator for that, but I honestly think that was one of the best ones we ever did, and that was with a previous company, and it was fun to do. And it's one I felt like, I'm like, dude, that thing nailed me, because it was, my core motivations were, I was a red yellow, which is a really weird combination, because like the reds are known for being like, they're the drivers, they're the ones that like get shit done, they're the ones that are like, they need the numbers, they need them quick,
right?
And what was cool is they told you your shortcomings with each one of these colors too.
Yeah.
And then the other one of mine, the one that was actually my predominant but just barely, was yellow, which is fun. So I always used to joke like, hey, we're going to get a lot of shit done, or we're going to have fun doing whatever we're doing, but we're going to do it my way. I was just kidding, which really isn't how I am. But I was like, but I am I do get stuff done.
Yeah.
But I try to make it fun doing it. That's kind of where I've been successful, is making a fun, cool place to work, and
that's important.
Just get shit done.
If you're not having a good time doing whatever it is you're doing, then what the hell's the point of doing it?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, other than the motivation of getting a paycheck, but even that only goes so far.
Right. I know, we're trying to.
Boring days just drag on and on and on. Yeah, when we did that thing, I ended up being, so I'm very much an analytical and a directive, and my third is creative. And I'm shit with relationships. No surprise there.
Yeah. Yeah, you get driven and kind of go past stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. I see a goal and I figure out every angle of how to obtain it. Yeah. And then build something if I need to get to it. Yep. And then I'm just driven straight towards it. Yeah. Yeah.
I've been there, done that. Yeah. It's funny. I've really, like, especially coming up here since I moved up here, I've just really, actually I did it after I left, it was a company called Graham Pacific Resorts. After I split with them, I really did a lot of soul searching, because that was harder than my divorce. It was, I'd actually almost died. I got bit by a spider. don't know if you've ever seen me in shorts, but this leg is horribly scarred. And I got bit by a spider, and I went fully toxic, and ate literally flesh falling off my leg. And
was it a brown recluse?
Yeah, brown recluse. Yeah. But then I didn't take care of it, and then it became a MRSA infection that almost took me. I spent a month in the hospital, like in quarantine. It was freaking nuts. But when I got out, my company was like, "Oh, see ya." We're they were fighting to save this management contract, so I kind of got it. But they were just, I'd literally worked for them for 20 years.
Was this the last company you worked for?
This was like 2 companies ago.
Okay.
And I was just like, like I said, I'd worked for them for 20 years. It was like my family, and I was just like kind of devastated after it,
Yeah.
And so then I was like, okay, and I was super driven. I won. Like
pull that towards you.
Oh yeah. So within the resort business, there's something called an ARDA, which is like our Oscars. And okay. I was super driven. I loved I still love what I do. But I had won an ARDA, which is like our Academy Awards, top resort manager in the world type of thing. And
I didn't know there was award ceremonies for that.
There is. We're a very competitive group. But anyway, I had done very, very well with that, and so all of a sudden I'm on my ass trying to figure out what to do. I got a kid, and she had just flipped my car. So I had my leg was gone. She flipped my car. My home was attached to my job.
Jeez.
And so I was like, all right, is the money? I really went soul searching, trying to find out, what I wanted to do. And I was like, I am not going back into the resort business. So I still want to do something like that. So I got into freaking vacation rentals. I was working for a company called Vacasa and I was managing their homes. It was like, it was when VHR's vacation home rentals.
Yeah, so
really started to take off.
Like they own a bunch of houses and they rent them out for vacations?
Kind of the opposite. Okay. So people own their homes and they hire Vacasa or companies like it to come in and manage the property for them.
Okay.
So you buy an investment.
Like a managed Airbnb type deal?
Exactly. So, you want to Airbnb, and there's still, Vacasa's still doing it, and there's other companies that are. That do it, but they come in and you don't want to have to deal with VRBO, right?
Yeah.
So, and you don't want to have to call the housekeepers in, and you don't want to have to call, you don't want to have to deal with the reservations. You don't want to have to deal with dirt in the rooms, the maintenance. So you hire a company like that, and that's what I was doing, and that was more property management than hospitality. So I got out of that, and but kind of going back to your statement about what was fun. After that, I left there. I was like, this is miserable. It really was. I didn't like doing it all. And there was a campground.
Like attached?
No, this was looking for a GM.
Okay.
And it was literally they didn't pay the greatest, but it came with a house in Tahoe, and it was literally an old office building that I had to work with the contractor to renovate to make livable as a house. Because they'd had a double wide in the back, but it was like condemned.
Oh yeah,
so
just
but we got this other building that you could have, and we'll give you this much money to renovate it and turn it into a house. So if you take the job, because they really wanted me, and so I did it. Honestly, one of the funnest jobs I've ever had. Paid crap, but it was just a fun job, and I was like, I could probably do this forever. But then COVID hit, and it made that job miserable. Because here I was, we were out with everybody, and like literally every night, I walked around with my dog, freaking drinking a beer, and because I lived on property, you're not drinking right there in the office, but at the end of the night, you're drinking a beer, you go sit by people's campfires, you're bullshitting with them. I had concerts, I brought in live music, I opened a wine shop there on site, I opened up a restaurant there on site.
Yeah, but Tahoe, that's California, right?
Yeah. And it was so much fun. And then COVID hit, and it was kind of the opposite of the rest of California, because I think we had all had COVID before COVID actually was a thing.
Yeah.
So then all of a sudden, because the way California did it, it depended on, you could open up depending on what your local infection rates were.
Right. Nobody
in freaking Tahoe was getting COVID.
Yeah, which makes sense, being a huge tourist destination to begin with.
Yeah.
And yeah, when they figured that it started like right towards the end of 2019, so like November.
Yep.
So yeah, people were probably traveling to Tahoe for Christmas time anyway. Yeah. So everybody already got it.
So we got it. So when they started to track it all, we were all like immune.
Yeah.
So it opened up all of California, freaking flooded Lake Tahoe, like everybody. And the thing was, it wasn't like it wasn't like people were coming up there and being cool.
Right.
Like some were, like some, everybody up there was just so angry. And then you drop in all the freaking, Trump on this side. I was literally chasing people to take their flags down and their protest signs. And it literally, the whole situation just freaking ruined that job. And I was, it was still cool, but...
So you had like flag wars going on at the resort?
Not kidding, yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, and like I had people like scream, and I just came up with a really good spiel, and actually the company I was working with kind of coined it, and they like made it an SOP on how we should address it. But I would just be like, hey guys, I'm not trying to pick a side here for either one, but you see all these little kids around here?
Oh yeah, there you go.
Do you see these families that are sitting around here? Right now, everybody is so stressed out and everybody is fried.
Yeah.
Can we just stop, give these kids, give these people a place to come relax and get away from this for just a little while?
Yeah.
That's all I'm trying to do. And literally, I could have the most irate snowflake to the freaking diehard Trumpster. And if I put it like that, they're like, oh, I get it. Okay, I'll stop being an asshole.
Yeah, the whole point is to come here and be on vacation and just enjoy life and stop fighting about a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah.
And here you guys are still bringing the same shit with you.
Exactly. Could we just not do that here? And so, but the job became more of that, which wasn't as fun.
Yeah.
And then then all of a sudden I found out, my mom was going into hospice, and that place was just, and I was like, this is just a great opportunity to make another change. So it came up, and honestly, when I first came up here, I was gonna just take care of mom and dad, and I had a little bit of money put away, not a lot, but a little bit put away, and so I was like, I'm just gonna focus on making sure they're taken care of. And then as soon as I got up here, my mom pretty much died right away.
Oh, that sucks, man.
Yeah, and I think, at least I got to see her, and I got to spend some time with her, and I honestly, and even my dad talk about this, I think she literally was just like, I'm waiting for somebody to come up here and take care of dad. I think that's what she was waiting on. So I got up here and she's like, all right, dad's going to be fine. I'm out.
Yeah, so, just hanging on, waiting for you to come up.
Something. Yeah, one of us. We have 6, there's 5, or originally there were 6 kids. We lost one sister, and there's 5 of us. And I was the only one that kind of was like, hey, I got you. So I came up, and but it was just good timing. And then funny enough, as soon as that happened, I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to get like a bartender job and stuff like that. So I started, or see if there's some, I always joke the best job in the resort business is a concierge. I was going to be like a bartender or a concierge.
It's not the first time I've heard that.
Yeah, and I was like, I think maybe I'll just go do that. So I started putting my resume back out there, just on some of the sites. That's actually kind of what I was looking for. And a bunch of people that I had worked with that work for the company I work now, I'd worked with in a previous company, and they saw I was job hunting, and they're like, dude, there's literally a resort in your backyard that would be perfect for you. And it's a super basic resort to run. It's beautiful. We just finished a renovation. Of course, now with a little flooding, we're gonna have to do some more. But honestly, it's a sweet spot. It's kind of out in the middle of nowhere, so staffing can be a little bit of a challenge. But it's nice to be kind of back in that business again. And it's the company I work for is great. They've really taken good care of me and had a lot of good opportunities to do stuff within the company. And like when I came on, they're like, dude, your resume is over what this property needs. And I'm like, I know, but it's close to my house. And here's the deal. I'll get it dialed in, and then you guys can send me to go do other stuff, because I'm really not trying to move up, because I can't really move anywhere because I'm taking care of dad. So I'm not being a corporate climber. I'm not trying to take your job. But I'm gonna get bored. I'm gonna need some cool stuff to go do. I went to Moab and helped open the Moab resort. They've thrown me projects. Actually, one of our Heather with Spiceology. So working with Heather, we're gonna roll that out for the whole company.
Spiceology. Yeah. What do they do?
Spices.
Yeah.
So So I thought you were friends with her too. They're started that Tim and Casey clique.
Yeah.
She's a salesperson for Spiceology. Her hubby, I think, runs Petco or one of those pet stores.
Yeah, Heather and Christian.
Yeah. That's him. I couldn't remember his name.
Yeah.
I'm horrible with names. It's like that's one of the reasons I love Facebook. I literally will go out and be like, okay, I know this person. What's the name? Do that all the time.
I can remember names and faces of pretty much everyone. except for like occasionally I'll meet somebody that, and it's not necessarily a weird name. It's just for some reason that name just does not register.
Stick. I know, I could say,
and I don't know what it is. So if I don't use it within like the first 5 minutes of meeting them, like 3 times, I'll forget, and then I feel like a dick every time I see them. I'm like, hey, man.
See, I have to see that in writing. Is my thing too, because I'm definitely ADHD. I'm very ADHD. So that's one of those things, that working memory right in the beginning. I'm like, oh, I have no idea. So like I have to. That's what I cheat with Facebook all the time until I finally get to remember somebody's name, or I have to get in a situation where I have to use it or write it down, or like if I'm tagging them in it. It's funny. It's if I'm tagging somebody in a post, that's kind of like bam, I click, I remember it after that. But like I have to document it in my brain in some way.
Yeah, my only problem with Facebook is I'm one of those people, like I'm a techie nerd, like through and through.
Yeah.
And Facebook for me is highly addictive.
Oh yeah.
I'm the person that will sit and scroll all day. If I'm not paying attention, I will do it. And so I have to be extremely mindful now that I'm back on it of like, okay, it's been like 5 minutes. Go do something constructive.
Yeah.
I don't need to see every meme that's ever been posted.
100%. I'm the same exact freaking way. Especially like right now when we're so slow at work, because I'm getting everything done.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, well, let me redo that. Let me redo this. Like everything's like on time and getting it all done. And then it's just like, I could go do this, but wait, then I will have to send somebody home because they won't have anything to do. So like I got yelled at by my night. We have a night audit that at the property that stays and does laundry overnight. And like the other day I started like a couple loads of laundry. And like, it's funny, I came in the morning and he's like, I'd appreciate if you didn't, if there's not a lot of laundry, just don't worry about doing it, because if you do it, I don't have anything to do. I'm like, all right, fair enough.
Bored.
Yeah, like, me too. But and it's, you know, it's nice for a little bit during the off season. Like when you first come out of summer, you're just like, so like for the next couple of weeks, it's cool because we're busy up through the holiday, and then next week it dies off. Like this week is just dead too.
Yeah.
So and then once it'll be dead till Valentine's Day hits, and then we're jamming again. So
yeah, I managed to score an extra day off just because. So I was supposed to work last Thursday, and then I've been busting my ass. I mean, the last 2-3 weeks a month, just to try and get all of my end of year, end of month, all of that stuff done.
Yep.
All of my paperwork's finished. I had everything I could possibly do, and everybody knows what they're supposed to do because I went over it with them several times. So at this point, everything's on autopilot. And so every day, I'm basically just spending my day back and forth between sitting at my desk, just answering emails, and then running down to the floor like, hey, how you doing? Everything good? Yep. Well, okay, see you in 20 minutes.
Yeah, doing the same thing.
Yeah, so I was like, hey, can I take Thursday off? Because this sucks. I'm bored out of my fucking skull. And they were like, well, okay.
Yeah, right.
It works out for me.
I let my whole staff go on vacation those last 2 weeks. So it's just literally, you know, I'm opening, I'm the 6 to 2 front desk shift and still able to get all my stuff done.
Yeah.
You know,
6 p.m. to 2?
6 a.m.
Oh, okay.
Which is early this week.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I kind of like it because like today, you know, like we had this thing planned and I was like, all right, I got to get up early, but I was able to get in bed early last night as long as I stay out of razzles and it's not too hard to get up early. And so got to bed early, got up early, and then like at 2:00, I'm like, I'm out of here already. It seems like the day goes by super fast, and it's nice.
Yeah, we had originally planned to go out Christmas Eve, and then I just kind of peopled out.
Yep.
You know, so we were like, yeah, no, we're just gonna go home. But on the way to Tim and Casey's, there was only like one car there.
Yeah,
there was like nobody. I remember it was either last year or the year before we ended up there, and it was cool because there was maybe 10 people in the place.
That's kind of what happened this year.
Yeah, and I think it was me, you, and somebody else. We were like kings of the karaoke for like the whole night.
That was this year too. Like I was literally every time we were trying to play Cards Against Humanity
in the bar.
In the bar. And while karaoke was going on, and it was funny because every time we'd get through like a round, I'd sing a song, I'm like, okay, I can go over and start playing again. And then he'd like come up to me with the mic, here you go, James, here's another song for you.
Yeah, right.
You know, so I was like, all right. So sing along that night. It was fun.
So you were in the Marines.
Yep.
So where were you stationed out of?
A little bit of everywhere. Oh, not everywhere, but I started out with did boot camp in Camp Pendleton, or actually MCRD in Camp Pendleton, and then when I got out of there, what's funny is I had originally joined the Marine Corps thinking I was going to play rugby for the Marine Corps. That was the plan. And believe it or not, the stuff that the recruiter told me, actually he delivered on, and I backed out of it.
Oh, really?
Because he was like, okay, so we've got this figured out. You're going to go freaking repair radar systems in Yuma, Arizona, and, you know, they got a good base team, and and then you'll be able to, you know, play for the Marine Corps, blah, blah, blah. Because at the time, I was on the U19 developmental for USA Rugby in high school and stuff. Didn't get to tour with them, but I was in the developmental program. And then age got too old, and I went off and played college, and I was very good. And so they were like, we really want you to come play. So that's what I thought I was going to do.
So did you play rugby in college?
Yeah, I played rugby in high school, played rugby in college.
Okay.
I played rugby till I was 35. And I still coach. I coach Liberty Lake Rugby here.
And you're still walking. That's amazing.
Yeah, I hobble. Yeah, yeah, I love it though. It's the best game ever.
We had a guy that we brought in at one point to. He was good friends of the guy who used to own our company, and he played rugby. So I think he was semi-pro at one point. Maybe he was pro for a couple of years, but he came in. They brought him in to help out, kind of help build up the company a little bit, and. Yeah, he always joked about how anything that you could do right now on the floor of this company is nothing compared to running down a rugby field.
Yeah.
I can't remember what he said, but it was funny as hell. Yeah. But yeah, he had a limp a little bit.
Oh, yeah, we all hobble, and it's hard to sit for too long, and yeah.
Yeah, but that game's no joke, man.
But it's also like I played till I was 35. Jeez. You know, and that's one thing that's the beauty of the game. Like these kids that are playing football and stuff, they're 99% of them, probably more than 99%. Last day that they're ever going to play that game is the senior night in high school. Rugby, you can keep playing as an adult. You know, if I had actually, what's funny is that I only had 2 major injuries while out of that whole time. I had concussions, but I'm okay. But only 2 major injuries, and one was I had a separated shoulder, which just popped out, popped back in, and took a couple months to heal, and it was fine. And then the other one, my neck just finally gave out, and so my vertebrae all got compressed and cracked.
Isn't rugby kind of like lacrosse and football mashed together?
No, actually, football comes from rugby.
Okay.
So it went soccer. The evolution is soccer. Then I was Timmy, whatever, I forget his freaking name, but some kid picked up the ball at rugby prep school in England in the 1800s, and then all of a sudden they made these rules around it, and then it became rugby, and then all of a sudden rugby came to America, and America had to make their own thing, and so America turned it into football, or which the rest of the world calls it as gridiron. So that's kind of the evolution of it. So it's kind of like I guess if we had to say across, it's kind of like the best way to describe it, it's like a non-stop football game. Like you don't stop, there's no downs. It moves constantly like soccer does. You have to transition from offense to defense. You play both. And there's no blocking. So, and that's one of the reasons that there aren't as many huge injuries in rugby. I mean, it actually has a lower injury rate, substantially lower injury rate than football. So
yeah, because you don't have guys standing in your way that you're bashing into.
Yeah, no, people aren't standing around. Like any contact you go into, like you're usually making eye contact with that person. You know, whereas in football, you got blind. You know, you're pulling guards. And,
you're getting blindsided by people.
Yeah, and then that pile in the middle. You know, when you're in the line, people get knocked into you and knocked that way, and that's where all the a lot of the injuries happen. In rugby, you're like usually if you're making contact, it's 1-on-1, and you're eyeballing somebody as you hit them. You know, so it's less injuries, but I love it. Greatest game ever. Still trying to build up the culture here. We've got a huge benefactor that actually there's a professional club in Salt Lake City, Utah called the Warriors. And pro rugby's literally like 2 years in. It's like the second or third year of professional rugby in the United States. And one of those teams is the Warriors in Salt Lake City, while one of their partial owners lives in Liberty Lake. And so he's really helping us build the club. He actually opened the Liberty Lake Academy.
Nice.
So it's like a prep school for kids. But part of it, he's like literally the stuff that they're building first is like the wrestling room and then the training center for rugby. I'm not kidding. It's
That's
like
awesome.
before he has the classrooms done. And so he's like, for right now, we're able to practice. We're over in a giant warehouse, and we're able to start practicing with the kids right now. And we start, we're doing
you got to have your priorities straight, man.
Exactly. We're doing the youth, we're doing the kids. So we have, you can start as 8 is the youngest that we have. But technically it's a U12, so it's all the kids under 12. And under 12 is actually co-ed. And then when it's 12 to 14, which is actually 12 to freshmen, the way it comes out, that's the team I coach. It's the U14 team.
Oh, you're coaching?
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yep. And then we have a coach, and then we have the high school club that we're attached to as well. So it's really cool. It's the program started about 3 years ago. I started coaching with them last year, and last year the team doubled in size. I think we had about 60 kids last year, 50, 60 kids last year total. That's full club. This year, U14, I think we're literally going to have 30 kids just in U14. We're probably going to have 60 kids in U12. And then the high school seems to be pulling a lot of kids too. So they're probably going to have 2 full sides. So 30, 40 kids. So it's growing fast, and we're just really trying to pump it up and create the culture. And if you've ever been around rugby at all,
I haven't.
It is a completely different culture than any other sport. And the culture is as much a part of it as the game itself.
Well, what's different about it?
I can give you examples of where I went out on a field, some guy split my head open, friggin' 7 stitches. I duct taped my head back together, get back in the game, finish the game. Of course, I saw his head on the ground, peel his ear back with my freaking cleat. He's bleeding all over the place, so he has to get out. End of the night, there's always a party after a rugby game. We're drinking beers, picking on each other. So, I got 2 more stitches than you did. He was a big, he was a big Tongan guy, and he's like, "Oh, you got more stitches than I did," And I'm like, yeah, but your ear's dangling off. I'm like, but that's the thing. Or like one of the other, like if you go to tournaments, that's the other thing that's funny. Like you can go to tournaments, it's called whoring. So we're rugby whores. I spent a lot of years whoring, being a rugby whore. But like you can go to a tournament, and there's always somebody that will need an extra player, somebody that'll need, somebody always needs an extra player. So you just go play for somebody else's team. Just because it's fun, you just want to go play.
You're kind of like a freelance.
Yeah, and that's normal. And like we play youth, and there's a lot of clubs that we play that don't have the numbers that we do.
Yeah.
And so we'll run extra games. Like we'll run an extra game because there's extra kids that want to play, and we'll pull kids from other teams onto our team. If they don't have enough people to play, we'll give them some of our players and we'll play. Just because everybody wants to play the game. And believe it or not, that happens all the way up in a men's club. And it's interesting because there's different levels. Like I hate the comparison, but kind of like softball, people relate to that, where you have there's those teams where everybody shows up drunk.
It's funny because I was actually just thinking about softball.
Yeah. So you get that, there's what we in rugby call it a pub team.
Okay.
So you got people that have like a pub, there's a pub team. Then you have kind of serious team, and then you have your elite teams, and most of them kind of fall somewhere in the middle. But there's always a party after the game. There's dirty drinking rugby songs that are hilarious. There's just a lot of tradition behind it, and
yeah, but it's cool that you guys can just beat the shit out of each other on the field and then have a party afterwards, and you're just fucking with each other and having a good time.
Exactly, and there's a few other things it was. And how the rugby community reacts. So, right now we just kind of finished the fall international season. So there was an Australian player that flopped. You know how you see the soccer guys flop.
No. I don't follow soccer.
Well, or even basketball. You see a guy that you brush him and he falls to the ground.
Oh, okay.
So somebody flopped in an Australian player flopped in a game, and it was super obvious. You would have people were giving him death threats because that's just shit you don't pull in freaking rugby, and people flipped out about it. And the other thing too, the refs in rugby are God. It doesn't matter. There's no arguing with the ref. There's no any of that, dude. The ref on a rugby field, and you'll see, 6'7" guy, gets pissed off, and you see a 5'2" female ref come over and like, listen here, asshole, knock it off, sin bin. Sorry, ma'am. And, and you say sir and ma'am to the refs. Yeah. And it's it's a very rich culture of just, like I said, of just a brotherhood and a sisterhood, because women's rugby is one of the fastest growing women's sports. And my daughter played her senior year in high school. Nice. And she was pretty good. So I would love to get her playing again, but she's got a bum knee. So.
Oh. Yeah, that'll take you out.
Yeah. So you
played for the Marines?
Well, I played on Marine Corps teams throughout the Marines. Okay. So I didn't play for the official team, but it was great because I got to play all over the world as a Marine playing rugby. So I got to play. I ended up on MARDET Marine Detachment, which is kind of like a SWAT team for the fleet. All kinds of just different missions all over. Kind of did that stuff. But what was cool is we went port to port to port. And on each ship, I was on the Eisenhower, and then I was on the Enterprise. And on the Eisenhower, on our med float, I was able to put together a rugby team. And we practiced on the flight deck, and we'd practice in the hangar bay, dodging F-18s. And I've run into an airplane practicing rugby and split my head open. I split my head open a lot. But, we've lost a rugby ball off the side of an aircraft carrier. Fun stuff. But when we'd pull into port, we would have a rugby game set up. So like our public affairs officer would have a game set up for us, because it's the only and that's the thing. If you're part of that rugby brotherhood, you could pull in anywhere in the world, start talking rugby. You'll have a place to stay. You'll have beers.
Sweet.
You may or may not get introduced to his sister. But that's just the culture of it. It's very much of like, oh, you're a rugby player. It's a brotherhood. So we would pull into ports, and it's funny, like the rest of the unit or whatever would go like wander off and, do whatever drunk Marines do, which, I did a lot of that too. But at least one day I had this like day where I went and played rugby with the locals. And it was really, we run into some really crazy ones. And then, each time I switched units, there would be a rugby, like I played for the Wildcats in Okinawa. I played, we put together another team when I was with the 31st MEU, and we were going to Australia and all that stuff. We put a rugby team together there, which was funny. On that particular team, the one that I got to play with when we went to Australia, there were a couple guys that I had played competitive or representative rugby on the California team, and the guys that had played on the U19 USA team that we all knew each other ended up in the same unit. 31st MEU, and like we put out a thing saying, hey, anybody want to play rugby? All of a sudden these are guys I'd played against or with in high school. And I was like, yeah. Nice. We put together a great team. But that's how tight that union is. But like, we pulled into freaking Israel, and we're like, okay, what game did they have set up for us? We show up to this like beautiful pitch, and it's the freaking Israeli national team. I got a bunch of scrubs that I put together a team on the ship, and we're playing the Israeli national team. I was like, crap. They beat us, but I did score against them. So I can't say I have an international try, which is like a touchdown. So yeah. But yeah, it was cool. So yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, so I'm a little excited about rugby. I love rugby. So.
You've been around.
I've been around. Yep, all over.
Well, did you ever try your hand as like a chef or anything like that?
I grew up in the restaurant business and in the back house of the kitchen. Okay. And front, I did everything. It was a small family, or it was a giant family catering. It was my friend's family's catering company. Okay. And like 13 years old, I started doing dishes and then
I was just curious because I mean, anytime we've ever been over to your place, man, you always have just this huge like feast going, or some interesting dish that you're like, oh yeah, I just threw this together, like try that, and I'm like, holy fuck, this is the best thing I've ever put in my mouth.
And I worked in like 5-star restaurants as a kid, and they were a very high-end catering company, and then that opened the door for me to start working at these high-end restaurants in Sacramento. Coeur's and Slocum House, and which are all, Slocum House I think is still open, but they were all like the top restaurants, and I was very excited to do that, and that's what I did through high school, was working at those places. Even when I was trying to be a tile setter, I still had my restaurant jobs. And I was one of those people that always had like 3 jobs. but just have loved it. I love cooking. I love, I love the whole thing. I did open a restaurant once while I was still running a resort. I had a friend of mine. We went into the restaurant business together.
Oh yeah.
But it was a barbecue restaurant. It was barbecue and wine.
Ooh, yeah.
So it was like Texas style barbecue. So we had the big, we had the big smoker and did that. But then like our sides were more like, we called it, what was it, Texas barbecue with California sides. So it was like our coleslaw had like watermelon in it. It was made with yogurt. It was delicious though. But it was stuff like that. It wasn't really high end, but it was being back in the kitchen. And unfortunately, he got very, very ill.
Oh.
And I was still in the restaurant business, and I was also a single dad at the time. So I was like, I have to make the right decision. I have to.
Yeah, that's rough trying to juggle all of that.
Yeah, I have to, because he got very ill, wasn't able to work, and so he went into a coma. Actually, they didn't think he was going to come out. And so I had to make the tough decision. Do I keep the restaurant open and risk, the job do I leave the job that has my health insurance? And, I'm a single dad. I can't do that. So we had to shut the restaurant down. Sucked. And they came out of the coma and I had to tell them about it. Not good. But
Hey, good to see you.
glad you're alive. Your lifelong dream that we were working on together. Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't stop that.
Yeah, that's gone. But that's okay. I don't think he even he ended up with brain damage from it and then started heavily medicating. And the last time I saw him, he asked me to come over to his house to take pictures of the aliens in his backyard.
Okay.
So I think he's feeling no pain. So
he's probably not worried too much about the restaurant.
No. But it was cool. Like it's funny. The stuff will still pop up on Facebook from it because we never took down the page because he couldn't remember the freaking password.
So it's still just going.
It's still just going. It was called Harry's Place in Vacaville. It was pretty cool. So and then I've always had. I actually when I went to college, I actually went to college for photojournalism. So I've always always had a side hustle as a photographer. I've got like 3 million views on Flickr. Which is kind of, I don't know if you're familiar with Flickr, but
I've heard of it. But
when it first started, I was one of the big contributors, and there was a bunch of weird stuff that went on where people were there was copyright violations.
Yeah.
And mine was one of the prime examples. I had this photograph I had taken for school because I went back to school a second time when everything went digital. I went back to school to get my AA for photography, and just because I wanted to. And so I went back, and one of the pictures I had taken for a class, I'd put it on Flickr, and some German restaurant group literally just pulled it off and used it as their whole marketing thing. And there's no way I could get reimbursed for it, but it became like this. It was part of a landmark case. So then it helped get me some notoriety on Flickr. So people were going to and so next thing you know, I'm just blowing up. And then of course at that time I was taking pictures of half-naked girls, so that didn't hurt. So
half-naked girls. You working for Playboy or what?
Not Playboy. We did some stuff for Suicide Girls. Done some
nice.
A lot of individual portfolio work.
Right on.
So yeah, I've got some interesting stuff in my portfolio. So, but most of it was pinup-y. I ended up. It was funny because it was just kind of a phase when the pinup stuff was really making a big comeback.
Yeah. And
I happened to be shooting a lot of that kind of stuff, and I end up in some catalog as one of the top modern pinup photographers in the United States. And I'm in like a couple different books, but that was like my focus for like a year. So. But it was fun. Photography's fun. Like, yeah, your wife.
Yeah,
we had some of those shots, so that stuff was fun.
Yeah, we got all the wives together and did the
Halloween shoot.
Yeah, the Halloween pinup things. Yep. Yeah, those were great.
Yep.
Yeah, they really enjoyed that. That was a lot of fun.
It was. I know. I want to get another shoot going. We were talking about getting. Wait, is your wife's sister? What's the one that came in for Halloween that had the big long red dress and the hood? She came as Red Riding Hood.
Oh, Grace.
Grace. Yeah. We wanted to do like a snow shoot with that.
Oh yeah.
With that outfit, I was like, that'd be perfect. So
yeah,
I don't know. But yeah, I want to get some more shoots going. And I like last year. So one of the reasons I kind of stopped the photography as much as I was doing it was my gear got stolen.
Oh really?
Like I literally spent years. I had probably $15,000-$20,000 worth of gear and parked it in a parking lot at my old resort. And somebody broke into my car and took all my gear.
Oh, geez.
So that was not cool. And so I kind of laid off. I just couldn't afford. By then I was single dad again.
Yeah, that shit's expensive.
And I was like, fuck, I can't be blowing money on this. So I had like a camera, but not enough to go do the stuff I was doing.
Right.
So it kind of put the damper on that. So just literally just last year, over this last year, I got my year-end bonus last year and went out, and there was a lot of good used gear out there, and I just started buying up gear again.
Hitting up eBay?
Yeah. Or actually Facebook Marketplace, man.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, Marketplace seems to be the place for camera gear. But they, so it was great. The Halloween thing was kind of like, I had literally just bought those new lights. So I was like,
yeah,
I gotta try these lights out. So, and then Casey had been hounding me to do a shoot because she'd seen some of my older stuff, and she's like, we need to shoot. So came up with that, and it came out rad.
Yeah, they turned out really good.
Came out and what's funny is that whole shoot came out totally different than it was going to be.
Oh, really?
The whole idea of that shoot originally was everybody was going to carve pumpkins, and we were.
Okay, I vaguely remember something like that.
It was going to be a pumpkin head shoot.
Yeah, that's right.
And that was the original plan.
Yeah, and then we just ended up with the masks.
Yeah, and for some reason, Casey had that one doll mask that I was like obsessed with.
Yeah,
that really made the shoot.
That thing was creepy as shit.
It was,
but it made it made the photos so much better.
Yeah, they were super creepy, which just made them cool. So, and I like doing weird shit. I don't necessarily like the same Instagram girl with big boobs. You know, in some shit she bought from offline costume store. This shit's boring. Gotta get something interesting if you're gonna shoot it.
Something different.
Yeah, exactly. Different location, different lighting, different. I don't know. It's gotta be different. So my stuff was always different back in the day, and yeah, I'd like to get back into more of that, but it's fun to shoot.
Yeah, over time, man.
Yeah.
Just get some more gear together, and
actually, the thing I want right now. Actually, my dad just bought me some really nice gear for Christmas.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, because lost or stolen. Last time I was in Vegas, I'm not sure it was lost or stolen. I was pretty drunk. My flash disappeared on my last trip to Vegas, so my just top of the camera flash, which was about $800. So Dad bought me a new one for Christmas, which was great.
Sweet.
So I picked on him. I think because he wanted his flashback. So the camera thing runs in our family. My dad was a photographer as a side hustle. He shot for Chicago Tribune going through college. And,
damn.
My sister's an editor for CNN. Grandpa was just an amateur photographer. I grew up with a darkroom in the house.
So you've been around it forever.
Yep. I was rolling my own film and developing black and white when I was like 9 years old. So it's just like in my blood.
I've never even been in a dark room for real.
And it's just weird. Everybody's like, God, you should totally just go pro all the time. I'm like, I think it would ruin it.
Yeah.
Like, it's my art. It's like kind of my like, I've been in magazines, I've been in books, and I've got, I have gotten paid for a lot of stuff, but like, I think if I had to like go out and hustle it,
right,
it would ruin it. Like,
yeah, it makes sense. Like, I've talked about this before, if you're somebody that loves working on cars, like die hard.
Yeah.
And then you were to go and get a job, working at a dealership or something, just working on cars all day.
It'd ruin it.
Yeah. You'd get so fucking bored of it.
Exactly.
Like, no, I'm done.
Yeah.
You get home and you don't want to do that because you've been doing it all day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Yes gets like that. Yes, right?
Yeah.
That lives with us. So she's a fantastic chef, and she's classically trained. I mean, she's worked with like some really high-end chefs, and she knows all the right terms for everything. And I actually used to work for her. She had a gourmet food truck.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I used to work for her on the side.
Huh.
I've done all kinds of crazy shit. So yeah, I used to side hustle with her and work as a chef for her. And but anyway, she's very like I said, she knows all the classic terms for everything and wants to. But she's just like, when she gets home, she's like, I don't want to see the fucking kitchen.
Right.
I know. So yeah, she doesn't. She used to cook a ton when she wasn't working full time in the kitchens, but now she's full time in the kitchens. So she's like, comes home, doesn't want anything to do with it. And then she starts to cook, and then she like takes over the kitchen. So she's like, nope, once she gets rolling. But her food's fantastic. So I'm like, all right, cool. I'll get out of the way. You cook for a little while.
Well, good. I'm glad at the Christmas party she decided to steal the wooden spatula from me. I mean, that thing was awesome. I would have definitely used it, but yeah, it sounds like it's more up her alley anyway.
Yeah. Wait, I didn't miss that one. She had the wooden. Yeah,
so I can't remember his name. Is it Mike, or they called him Shaggy?
Oh, Shaggy. Yeah.
Yeah. So him and and his wife, they made the presents that they brought, and he carved this like wooden spatula thing that's really for like turning eggs, but so he made that.
Oh, that's right. I remember seeing it.
Yeah, and then she made it was like this. I think it was like a some kind of feathered deal or something for your hat.
Yep.
That was really cool too. Yeah, so I got the spatula, and then stole that when it was her turn.
Wait, did I steal booze from you?
No, I think you took tequila from somebody.
That was the vodka.
Or vodka, yeah.
Okay, it wasn't you. I forgot what it was. Dude, that night was such a blur. It was fun though, man. That was a great party.
No, I was just thinking about it. I got the unicorn.
Oh, that's right.
The headphones.
The purple unicorn headphones.
The purple unicorn headphones that I was supposed to be wearing, and I forgot about them.
Perfect. I know. Since we're doing this, that's what you should be wearing.
Right? That's what I should be wearing right now. That's it. See, and they even light up too.
Yeah.
They flash. Yeah, if we take a pee break, I'll put them on.
There you go. Yeah, that's pretty funny. Yeah, I had those. Where I bought those, I bought like 4 pair. I was like, these are perfect. And then I don't know who got that. And then the other one I bought was it was a car buddy.
Oh yeah, Tim got that.
Yeah, I thought so. I'm like, Tim, I haven't seen it. And then
yeah, I was just asking him the other day if he had used it yet, but his truck's broken, so he hasn't been going anywhere.
His truck's broken?
Yeah. Yeah, there's something wrong with it. The computer, and it's messed up, and it doesn't want to start half the time, and he keeps having to like unplug the battery and leave it for a few hours to like clear the computer, and then he'll plug it back in, and it'll work fine for like a day or two, maybe 2 weeks, you don't know, and then it'll just stop working again and it won't start.
That's lame.
Yeah, so diesels are great.
Yep. No, I got my love my little car.
Your Porsche?
Yeah, which I got. So it's kind of a sad story. So my best friend passed. He died, and I was handling his estate. Like his parents, it was middle of COVID. His parents couldn't come up, and they're like, "We just handle it all." So I was handling it all for him, and the car was one of those things that I needed to figure out what to do with. And literally, my car like died. I had a little Jeep, and it just completely died. And I was like, can I buy it from you guys? They're like, yep. So I bought it from them, and that thing is like, it was a little more beat up than I thought it was at first. And I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to afford to repair all this and blah blah blah. Repaired it, and that thing's freaking in the snow like this. Oh god, the thing does like perfect. Yeah, especially on that drive I have to do every day.
Yeah, those little Caymans are like, you know, they're seen as like a soccer mobile, but there's a reason why.
Yeah,
because they handle fantastic.
Yeah, I call it my old lady Porsche.
Yeah,
but it's like I said, I drive it on a racetrack every freaking day. 97 is. I can't wait till this summer. Like I have 2 motorcycles in the garage. Neither one. I'm like, I'm just gonna sell those and I'm gonna get a new bike, and that's like my year-end bonus is going for a motorcycle. That's all there is to it.
I didn't know you ride.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, we got 2 bikes in the garage, and
I'll have to show you the ones that we got sitting out there right now.
I've seen them when you guys ride up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I know. I have ridden once since I've been up here.
Have you really?
Yeah. That's
yeah, man. You gotta get another bike.
I know. Bad.
Yeah. Yeah, we usually go out with Amy's friend Bobby and his wife. So he has a bike, and so we usually go out
back seats.
So like one of the greatest things that I like to do is I'll try to get up at like 4 a.m. or something. So get up like super early, and then I'll take off just as the sun is coming up, and so I'll ride like up north towards Athol and stuff. Or I'll hit 41, go up through Spirit Lake, maybe up towards like Newport, stuff like that, and then I'll come back down the back way, and eventually I'll hit either 95 or whatever highway that is that goes like towards Athol from Spirit Lake area. And there's a diner called the Country Boy Cafe that has the best breakfast. And so it opens at 7 a.m. And if you get there right at 7, there's nobody in there except for like a whole bunch of old folks, you know, like 70s, 80s.
Yeah.
They're all country boys in their coveralls and stuff, you know, just hanging out. And it's so dead quiet, but it's nice to just sit, have some chicken fried steak and eggs, hang out after a nice ride watching the sun come up.
Yep. I used to have this ride, like literally I did, not kidding, almost like every day in the summertime in Tahoe. Because I was right at the, I don't know if you know Tahoe at all, but at the area called the Y. And I was right at the Y, which from there I could hop onto these back mountain roads and I could be down into the Nevada side in like 15 minutes, but just through a beautiful mountain road. Then I'd zip down, go down to this place called the Genova. It's the oldest bar in the Western United States.
Oh, for real?
And I would just go in there and have one beer, chill out, and it's just bikers.
Yeah.
Didn't matter what time of day it was. There was always bikes parked outside. Go have one beer, hop back on the bike, and then ride home. That was like my end of the day ritual if I had like a bad day.
Yeah.
It was just, but it's such an awesome ride.
Yeah, sunset ride going west is really good too. Like, especially when you're out here, because the way it goes down over there, like you can see it from the front porch here because the house faces that way. But every day when the sun goes down in the summertime, it's just this big pink landscape all the way across. It's crazy.
I do love this. I know I want to do more riding up here for sure.
Yeah, man. You need to get another bike and let me know when you're ready.
Yep.
I've been pretty much exploring this whole area every summer. Like, if there's a road that's not dirt, and even some that are, I'm like, where does this go?
Yeah. That's why I have a dual sport and a cruiser.
Yeah.
So but
yeah, I don't mind like a mile or two of dirt. Like, I've been riding long enough, I can handle it. It's not that big a deal. But you go too far and then you're just tearing up your suspension, your tires, and
if you got a shiny bike, like
well, mine's been around the block a time or two, so I don't worry about it too much. But one of them, the Suzuki, it's got a wider front tire, and so it actually handles on gravel and dirt and stuff really well. That one I'll take pretty much anywhere, but it's technically my wife's bike. I gave it to her when I got my Honda, so when I get home I have to make sure and wipe it down.
Yeah, there you go. Otherwise you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Now I have a Royal Star that is just pretty, but it's
a Royal Star.
Yeah, they were made by Yamaha, and they look like Indians.
Yeah,
and they're just the thing, and it's the guy I bought it from fully customized it, which was great, except for the fact that I can't get parts. Yeah, because all the parts that he put on it are custom. So like my clutch line went out, so I tried to go to get the clutch line, and the stock clutch line is this much too short. And then I go to, like, it's funny, the House of Hose, which I found out is a thing in Spokane. They can't even replicate it. And they're like, if we can't replicate it, you're not going to get it replicated.
For real?
Yeah.
I was going to say, you can get kits to where you can make your own cables.
Yeah, it's just a weird connection. Well, I would be able to do it, but I'd have to completely disassemble the front end of the bike. Oh, yeah. Which I'm not a mechanic. I freaking suck at. I'm good at a lot of things, but being a mechanic is not one of them. I just don't have the patience and the concentration.
Yeah. So that's probably when you want to trade in.
Because I mean, even when I bought it for like $2,500, which was funny too. Because I'd go out with like all my friends. I have these like super expensive Harleys, and it's like this beautiful black and yellow. And so these guys would all have their, the Harleys that look like everything else. I'd be on my freaking Royal Star, and everybody's coming over to my Royal Star, being like, "Dude, this thing's beautiful. Where'd you get it? What is this?" And I'm like, Royal Star, and they're like, "Oh, it's a Royal Star custom," and these guys paid like $20,000 for their bike. I'm like, I paid $2,500 for it.
Yeah, Harleys are so damn overpriced. Like, I want one really bad now, and it's funny because I was always the guy that was like, "Ooh, Harley, potato, ooh, big fucking deal." And I mean, since the 80s, they're not as great, and the reason why is because they're not really American made anymore. They may be assembled in America, but they're not American made. Like, they get their parts made in China and Japan and Mexico and everywhere else, just like everybody else.
And the thing is, a 2000 Harley doesn't look that much different than a 2020 Harley.
Exactly. So if everything is still outsourced to everywhere else, and you're just putting it together here in the States, why does that make it worth $30,000? I'm sorry, but it's not. No, so exactly. I will never buy a brand new one. But ever since my wife bought one, and I took that out for a ride. Bike envy. Yeah, and now I'm like, God damn, I
really want an Indian.
Indians are badass.
Yeah, my grandfather drove an Indian around Germany in World War II. So ever since then, I've been like, I need an Indian.
Yeah. Dude, Indians are great bikes.
Yeah, and that's what my
Victories are good
my
too.
bike. Yeah, they're awesome too. My bike looks just like an Indian. That's what everybody always thought it was. Like, is that an Indian? I'm like, no, it's a Royal Star. It's Japanese. But the thing was great, but I just can't get parts for it.
The Honda that I have, it's an 87. Yeah, it's an 87 V45, the Super Magna. So the cool story with that is like, and at the time I wasn't even looking for another bike. It was just one of those things where I'd cruise around on Craigslist looking at shit like, oh, that's cool. Oh, that's cool. And then I saw this thing, and just right off the get-go, I was like, that is awesome. Just the upswept exhaust and just the look of it. Like, because I've seen Magnas are a dime a dozen.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been out forever.
Yeah.
But this one, just the rake of it and everything, I was like, man, that is fucking badass. And then I Googled it, and I was looking it up. And what happened was when Reagan put in the tariffs on Japanese imports, what happened was he did that because he was trying to save Harley, because Harley was going under.
Yeah.
Why is anybody going to pay all that money to buy a big boy Harley when they could get a Japanese import that's twice as powerful for half the price? So that's why he did that. He was trying to save them.
Yeah.
And so in 87, they made the Super Magna, but it was limited to 700 cc's because anything that was over 700, you had to pay ridiculous taxes to get. And so they just redid it and modernized it for the time and made it look just crazy fucking awesome for a 700.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's a fucking badass bike. So I looked all this up, and I'm like, it's kind of rare. They only made 16,500 of the 87s. And then if you find an 88, which is a 750, it was right after the tariffs ended, and it's the same bike, but it's in a 750. They only made 6,500 of those. So if you find one of those in mint condition, I mean, they're worth like 20 grand.
There's like an 89 Goldwing that's been on, like, I just haven't been in a place to buy. I'm like, I think it's an 89 Goldwing. It looks like it's like brand new.
Really?
Yeah, and it's like $3 grand.
Yeah.
So here in town somewhere.
I've thought about getting a Goldwing, and my wife gives me shit about it. Like, oh, you want some old grandpa bike? And I'm like,
well, this one looks like, remember in Dove's Cry, the Prince was riding his. Yeah. It looks like that. I'm like, dude, I'd have to get like a purple suit, but I'd rock it.
The Goldwings, though, they have a 6-cylinder, and it's, I can't remember the name of the design of it, but it's sideways, so it's kind of like a Subaru Boxer. Yeah. And they have a shit ton of power, and I imagine they have to, because those bikes, like the Goldwings, I mean, they're heavy as shit. Yeah. When I took the experienced Idaho Star course, because I'd been riding for a while anyway, but I just wanted the thing so that I could get my insurance lowered. Mm-hmm. And there was this guy who was probably in his like 70s, 80s, again, just old farm boy. And he shows up on this Goldwing, and it's full dress. I mean, everything is on it. And he's throwing this bike around like it's a tin can, like it's nothing. I'm like, how the fuck can this guy move this thing like he can move it? He's been riding a long time. And it was just amazing to me that he could do that.
Well, my Royal Star is 1,300 pounds.
Yeah.
Thanks for It's a chunk of metal. Yeah. But it freaking rides great. It's not that fast, but it just rides smooth. And like, it's one of those bikes you just put it at freaking 75 and you're just like, perfect.
Yeah. Have you seen I think it's a Triumph, and it's what is it? Oh, the Rocket 3. Mm-hmm. The Triumph Rocket 3. So it's a cruiser sport hybrid. So it looks like a cruiser. It has a 3-cylinder engine, but the cylinders are like,
it looks like a half of airplane engine.
They're fucking huge.
They're like magnetos.
Yeah. The cylinders are massive. So we did the math, because I was looking at maybe trying to buy one, and we did the math, and me and my wife were looking at it. And so my wife's car, that Chevy Malibu that she's got, is like, I think it's like 200 and some horsepower. It's like 205, maybe a little less than that, 100 something. And when you do the math on what this engine's got, it has just under the same amount of cc's and horsepower as her car has. Damn. In a 3-cylinder motorcycle engine. And it's pretty heavy. I think the dry weight on it is like 800 pounds, 850. So you put a full tank of gas on it, that puts it around 900. But that thing, for a bike, will tear your head off.
It's a tank.
And I thought I have enough friend of mine that's thinking about getting one too. I was like, man, they sound cool. They kind of sound more of like a Japanese import just because of the stroke on them, but they are so powerful. It's the most powerful production motorcycle engine in the world. It's made by Triumph. It's pretty badass. I kind of want one, but then again,
yeah. See, I know myself. That's why I'm like, I liked my big slow bike. Yeah. It was, because when I dirt bike, I crash a lot. I love sending it. So it's like, if I had like a street bike or I had my buddy's Buell I went riding.
Oh, those are cool.
With, and it was at 1100, dude. And that thing, you just touch the throttle. You're like,
yeah.
Next year, like 160 miles an hour. And I'm like, no. If I had this bike, like I like my bike that I just.
Right. Which is a Harley, but the way that they tune it is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
A crotch rocket Harley.
Yeah. And it's fucking fast.
Yeah. A friend of mine had one of those, and I just rode it down the block and back, and I was like, maybe not.
Yeah. He had two bikes. My bike was broken. We were going on a group ride from the campground because I had so many bikers that worked for me. Like everybody had a motorcycle. My bike had taken a dump, and he's like, well, you can ride the Buell. And I'm like, I can ride the Buell. So he had his Harley, and then he let me ride the Buell, and I was just like, man, this bike would get me in trouble. Because it literally was just, we're out in the friggin' Nevada desert, and I'm just like, whoa.
Yeah, I had a buddy that was way into Hayabusas.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude,
they're not very expensive now.
They're not very expensive at all.
You can pick up a Hayabusa for like $3,000 right now.
Yeah. I had a friend that was way into them, and he had a couple, and he was just not the smartest rider.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way. I mean, this guy would just full throttle everywhere.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, you're going to kill yourself on it. And he's like, well,
way to go. Yeah.
He's like, if I hit the guardrail doing 200 plus, I only got to worry about it once. So what do I care?
Yeah, right.
I guess that's how you want to look at it.
Right. That's funny. It's crazy.
Like, yeah, I would prefer to live and enjoy a few more days of riding.
Yeah. I think my next one is either going to be an Indian or one of the BMW touring.
Oh, those are nice.
So.
Yeah.
And they're popping up.
Yeah.
Pretty reasonably now, like the 1100 and they're fun to ride.
My old boss had it was the BMW, I think it was the RT 11 or 1200. It's like it was their sport touring.
Yeah. Yep.
That thing was like a Cadillac.
They've got an RS too. The RS with the bag. They're not even bags. They're the freaking cases, with like fucking gun cases on the back.
Yep. Yeah, that's what he had, and he put it had an electronically controlled windshield, so you could raise it up and down and all that stuff. But he put different glass on it, so at the top it was kind of furled out. So you'd get on that thing, and the cool thing about those BMWs is it has highway pegs built into the heads.
Yeah.
So you just flip them out, and you'd get on that because we traded bikes once for like 100 miles, and stick your feet out on those freaking pegs and just kick back with the windshield up, and it's like driving a Cadillac.
That's
you can't
awesome.
Feel shit, you can't hear shit. You're just floating on a cloud. Which almost kind of takes the fun out of riding out of it, but it's extremely comfortable. So I mean, riding across country, hell yeah.
Yeah. I know. I miss some long rides. Hopefully, like I said, that's my plan for this summer. So is get the boat out more and get on a motorcycle. Because last summer I went on a lot of friends' boats, but it's nice having here. We have an older fishing boat, but it's really cool.
So one of the ones in your backyard? Nice.
Yep. And then the sailboat. I was gonna sell the sailboat, but then my daughter's like, "Don't sell the sailboat." So yeah, the only problem is, and actually I have a line. I might actually have a slip this year.
Oh yeah,
because that's been the problem. That sailboat takes like a whole day to set up.
Yeah.
So it's like you can't just go drop it in the lake, tool around for a while, and then pull back out like you can with our fishing boat. So so you kind of need a slip to really make it worthwhile. But I have a guy that is possibly going to split a slip with me at my work.
Nice.
So because that's the marina down at the bottom where our so we have all the resorts up on the hill,
right? And
then we have our marina down at the bottom, but it's all private and it's owned by Gauzer now. So it's like if you don't, you got to have $3,000. I mean, it's about $5,000 for the summer that you have to pay for the slip, and you can't even get a slip. So
they're probably all taken, right?
Yeah. So, but there's a guy who's one of the owners at Arrow Point, owns one of the private condos, and I'm the board president for the condo association. And he and I were talking, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm thinking." We were just bullshitting. He's like, "I think I'm getting rid of my slip," and I'm like, "Hey, hold on, you want to split it? I might take it over." He's like, "Well, I still might want to use it sometimes." Like, how about we split it for the summer? So nice. He's supposed to as we get closer to summer. So I might actually have a slip, which would mean I'd be able to just get off work, walk down the hill and get on the boat, like, which would be awesome.
That would be awesome.
Yeah. Because last year I had one friend, it's a buddy of mine, he lives up in Kellogg. He's actually a friend from Tahoe that moved up and opened a ski shop up in Kellogg. And, but he has a boat, and he'd be off midweek, you know, and I'm working, and all of a sudden he'd call me at the end of the day. He's like, I'm pulling up in the boat. You got the boat? He's like, yeah, I brought one of the boats down. So I'm like, all right, fine. So I'd go down to the bottom, and he'd just pick me up on the dock, and then we'd go ripping around. That's what it's beautiful. You know, it doesn't get dark here till, 10:30 at night. So
yeah. In the summertime, it's pretty bright for a while.
Yeah, I'd get off work at, 3, 4 o'clock, and we're like hitting it out in the boat. That was funny. It's a great lake.
Yeah. So what exactly do you do?
So I manage a resort. Just one now. I used to manage a bunch. I used to have 11 resorts in 3 states and 2 countries, and was super busy and insane and doing all that. And after I left that, again, I've just gone down to one property. So now I manage Arrow Point Resort for Wyndham. Okay. It's a little property over at, if you know, the lake we're at Arrow Point, right. So, which is kind of its own landmark.
Yeah, so, and do you guys work with Coeur d'Alene Resort at all?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
Because every year during Christmas time when they do the Santa cruise or whatever, they always have lights and stuff out pretty much everywhere, and I didn't know if they you guys work with them to set some up or something. No. We just have our marina lit up, but that's about it, which isn't really even ours. So we're pretty low key. I mean, I don't have food service. I don't have. We're pretty easy. So if you're driving by that side of the lake, it's funny because you see our condos, which there's 100 of them up on the hill, right? And they're the green and gray buildings. And then right in front of us, Gauzer built their beach club, and it's funny because they're the cheapest one in their condos right now is going for $6 million. Jesus.
Yeah, and you still have to pay $100,000 in dues. It's like. But that's, but in the summertime, I've got the Kardashians on our property. I was going to say
that's where A-Rod and all of them are going.
We see them all summer, we see all the black, I can see freaking Mark Wahlberg's house from my office. It's that's what's over on that side of the lake. And it's just crazy. I got to keep, who's the freaking singer? Who's the young pop singer that was getting in all the trouble? What's his name?
Chris Brown?
No. White kid.
Justin Bieber?
Yes. So we had Justin Bieber was just sitting on a quad smoking a cigarette in our parking lot. And my friggin' one of my front desk agents was looking outside. She's like, that's Justin Bieber. I'm like, yep, that's Justin Bieber. She's like, no, you're not going outside. No, you're not. So yeah, but we see him, we see celebrities like that all summer. Huh. So it's kind of crazy. Was it Jason Aldean? I think it was Jason Aldean last year. All of a sudden, somebody was posted pictures of him on a dock and with a bunch of, getting on boats. And somebody sent me the pictures and was like, hey, isn't that your resort? I'm like, well, yes, it is. I was like, yep, that's them. So yeah,
I remember when I was probably 21, 22, something like that. I went to and they were holding it, I think, at Coeur d'Alene Resort, and it was some deal where they were selling timeshares.
Yeah.
Yep,
that was us.
Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, so I actually used to have one of those. I never used it, but a buddy of mine, he bought one too. And so I've actually stayed there one time with him.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of fun. That place is awesome.
Yeah, they're super nice, and we just renovated them.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And they don't have activities and stuff, or we haven't, and so that's one of the things I'm ramping up there. I'm hopefully gonna have our liquor license by April.
Nice.
So I'm like I did with it was funny. So my little campground in South Lake actually turned into one of the best wine shops in South Lake Tahoe. Because I managed resorts in Napa for 15 years, so I'm kind of knowledgeable with wine. I know how to buy in bulk, and I know it tastes good, just get a low price point, and I know how to work all the deals. And so hopefully I'm trying to do the same thing in our little lobby, just open a little tiny wine shop and just wine and local beers. And the same thing I did in Tahoe, I will buy nothing that's from more than 100 miles away.
So kind of all local.
Just try and keep it all North Idaho, Eastern Washington,
Western Montana.
Yeah.
Nice.
And so when people bring stuff, so when people are coming in, you can go buy your jug of Carlo Rossi at the grocery store or even your Opus One or any of that. But I want people to just find wines that they're not going to get when they get back home. You know, they're on vacation. So I want them to find something like, oh my God, we're only going to get that every time we go to, you know, Arrow Point Resort. So
damn it, Janet, load up your suitcase.
Seriously. God, that was Napa.
So you're not talking about like a bar or anything, just like a nice, cool, chill little.
Yeah, there's a wine store, and then we'll do tastings and stuff like that. So I've already got a couple wineries lined up to start doing tastings in the spring. So as soon as the weather gets good, so they'll be coming out and doing wine tastings. I'm trying to talk
wine, cheese, and strawberries.
Yeah, something like that. I'm trying to get I want the plane guy to come over.
Plane guy.
Have you taken the plane, the seaplane?
You know,
Coeur d'Alene seaplanes? I
actually have not.
Oh my God, dude, you got to.
I've been wanting to do it forever, and I've never done it.
It's not even that expensive. I took me and my dad for his birthday.
Yeah, it's only like $100 and some bucks.
Yeah,
right?
It's like $130.
Yeah, we wanted to do it once. Man, this was probably 8-9 years ago. And that was when we were still living in the trailer.
Yeah.
And like she wasn't working. She was a stay-at-home mom. So, I mean, money was tight.
Yep.
So, yeah, we never ended up doing it. But
yeah, so he just reopened. Because, like I think it was 3 years ago, they had that horrible crash.
You're instilling a lot of confidence in me right now.
Well, no. But that was a different company. And it was like just a freak accident, just like anything. I mean, there's how many car accidents around.
I know, right? Statistically, you're safer in a plane.
Exactly. So they... but it did close down the like nobody wanted to do the seaplanes, and then this guy just bought this beautiful seaplane. It was funny, and it's kind of like a plane my dad used to fly because my dad was a pilot,
right?
And so that's the first time my dad's flown, and my dad flew private. He threw they call it a bamboo bomber. It was one of the trainers. He used to fly with his best friend out of Hayden up until about 10 years ago.
Wow.
And then they both got too old. They had a close call of some sort.
Yeah.
And like, we're both too old to be doing this shit. So
at some point you got to hang it up.
Yeah, they hung it up. And so he hadn't flown in a private plane in like 10 years. And so these guys had just reopened up this year for the flights. And it was so much fun. But it was awesome just to sit back and let my dad talk to other pilots.
Yeah.
And they speak a different language.
Yep.
And like my dad's
pilot bullshitting.
Yeah, totally. And my dad like knows like a lot of the old planes that are still around here that are like infamous, and they're and,
are you sure you're trimmed right?
No, actually my dad, it's funny that you say that because they were complimenting. My dad was like, wow, because like shit I don't even know about. Like they were talking about they had the engines in sync, which apparently is really kind of a challenge to do with the older planes.
Yeah.
And which I don't even know what it means, but it makes a very particular noise. And my dad's like, you guys have these synced beautifully. So it was like conversations like that. I'm like, what are you even talking about? So then my dad had to explain it. But I just kind of sat back and let them reminisce about all the different flights. I swear to God they were going to let dad hop up and take over, which he'd have freaking... But what was so...
He probably would have been on cloud 9.
What was so cool at the end of the thing, those guys were great. At the end of it, we got off and we come in, and I was joking. I'm like, yeah, this should become our birthday tradition. And the guy that owns the plane on the thing gave my dad he's like, I want to see you back next year, and gave him a free flight for next year.
Nice. That's awesome. That's nice of them.
Yeah, they were really great guys.
Yeah.
So, but I've continued to talk to them. I'd like to get them to come out to the property, but unfortunately the pier that we have has these big giant pylons. He's like, I can't get over the pylons.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, what if we build a...
Trying to figure out how to build a water runway?
Yeah, no, we were trying to figure out how to build a dock anyway, just so we don't have to even ask Gauzer to use theirs.
Oh, there you go.
Because technically we're allowed to use it, but they just like, our guests get the stink eye anytime they go near their property. And so they make it intentionally very uncomfortable for our people. So
that's lame.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Gauzer's the place that the celebrities want to go. So they're probably,
I get it. They want to hide. And, and that's what's funny. Like when celebrities come up here, like when celebrities would go to Tahoe, they'd like work the town. And like the Kardashians were the worst. Absolutely. Everybody, them and Tom Cruise were like, you didn't even say those words around like Tahoe because they were such assholes to everybody in Tahoe. But up here, all like the celebrities that come up here seem to like come up and disappear. You don't even know they're here.
Yeah.
You know, that's why they come up here. So I'm like,
yeah, they kind of just blend in.
Yeah.
And it's almost like people, when they do recognize them for the most part, kind of leave them alone.
And that's Idaho. It's, you know, people are like, because, you know, that's the way Idaho and Montana are. They're like, we don't want anybody fucking with our shit.
Yeah. Ooh,
leave us alone. Leave us alone. You know,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. God, what's her face? I can't remember her name, but I just saw a thing recently that was talking about some celebrity gal was up here. Oh, I wish I could remember her name. But see, that's how much I care about celebrities.
Yeah, Reese Witherspoon was.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. She was on our property.
Yeah, like somebody took a picture of her in a bookstore or something, and they're like, "Oh, Reese Witherspoon is in town," but yeah, she probably wants to be left the fuck alone.
Yeah,
How
exactly.
about you stop taking pictures of her?
Exactly.
There's a reason why she's here and not in LA.
Exactly.
But then you think in LA, like there's celebrities everywhere.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
like,
yes and no, but and then they set it up. I mean, that town is driven by that.
Well, yeah.
Like what people don't understand, because I almost got into the paparazzi thing.
Oh yeah.
And I shoot, like when I was in Tahoe, I became the music photographer in Tahoe. So if you ever look at my Facebook and go through my, like Afro Man, like I shot him every year. Dirt Nasty, Ice, or not how am I thinking? Too Short.
Nice.
These are all people that I shot. You know, Fish, freaking all the different white boy reggae bands. I was the guy that shot all that stuff in Tahoe. And so I was like, I wonder if I just get into the paparazzi thing too. So I looked into it. But they literally, like, what I learned is it's not just, there is some of the, you know, the guys just go out, but they already have their, like, pictures sold before they go out.
Yeah.
Like, there's somebody's agent calls and says, hey, Kim Kardashian's going to be at this place at this time. You need to get pictures of that. And then they go, it's like an assignment. Like,
Yeah,
they already
like,
have that shit sold. And,
like inside info that they feed to them, and they're like, okay, go here and get a snapshot.
yeah, and they already know that they know that picture's sold. They know where it's going before they even get the picture. So it's not quite the, you know, lottery. It's not like, oh, everybody goes over and gets a picture. Like, that shit's all set up. It's not like,
which makes sense, because I mean, you always see like this herd of paparazzi people.
It's all set up.
Like show up, you know.
Yeah.
It's not like TMZ where they just happen to catch people all the time.
Yeah, well,
no.
TMZ sets those up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shit, man, I gotta take a pee.
All right. Well, I'm actually.
Yeah, you want to wrap it up?
That went fast.
Yeah, hour and a half-ish. Yeah. Yeah, man.
So yeah, what are we doing? You know, we do another time, but
yeah, for sure.
This has been fun. Yeah, cool.
So this is your first time doing a podcast?
Yeah, I just get chatty. I'm chatty. So.
Hey, man, that's what we're here for.
Right on, right on. All right, brother. Well,
thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it.
Yeah, sure.
Everybody, thanks for listening.
Yep.
We'll see you again.
All right.
And tell your dad, hope he's feeling better.
I will. Talk to you later.
All right, bye.